Hi, I'm Ernie.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Budget Nerds.
What was all in your mind?
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Ben, welcome back to the show. I'm excited for this one because we've had some really exciting updates recently.
Yes.
And I thought it'd be a good time for us to nerd out about these updates.
Yeah, let's talk about... I'd love to hear what the Budget Nerds, what y'all are feeling right now about all the updates. Do you like them? Is it taking some getting used to? Yeah, we've had some version of these updates for a while because we get to test them out before they go to everybody else. And it took some getting used to for me for a lot of these changes. So I think we totally normal. So we can talk about that a little bit.
Actually, I guess that is pretty normal. That I think most people, they don't like change, or it at least takes people a little bit of a while to get used to the change. But for me, I kind of like change. And so right away, as soon as these started rolling in, I'm like, hey, this is cool. I like it. Let's go.
Yeah, I've always been that guy too, where like, I remember like back in the day, when Facebook or YouTube would change, like back when everybody was using Facebook, people freaked out, and I was like, this is great, so like, I'm usually that guy. But yeah, definitely, especially some of the terminology changes have thrown me, and I'm still struggling to say it right now. But yeah, why don't we talk about those? Because I feel like that's the nerdiest change. We've changed the words we use. Yeah.
To be budgeted, right?
Mm-hmm. Goodbye.
To be budgeted.
Let's just have a little moment of silence for
moment of silence.
I will remember you.
Goodbye, to be budgeted. You were very nice. We loved you. It's still there,
because
though, right? It's still there.
That's what hooked me.
Yeah.
With YNAB, right? It was that to be budgeted number. So I get the reason for the change, right? It's just much more intuitive for new YNABers to now look at that money and realize, oh, that's money I have that I need to now apply to the budget, right? My plan.
Yeah.
And so I get it. I can't get used to it.
It's tough. It's tough.
It makes sense. In workshops, I'm still continually, even like a week after doing, workshops with this new terminology, I'm still saying, to be budgeted.
Right.
Slash.
It's going to take a while.
Assign.
It's been years with that, and it's going to take a little while to get used to. But honestly, I love the change because, we talked about this in other videos and blog stuff, but the word budgeted was just overloaded. we used it so many different ways. We had, so open up your budget app and then open your budget, which is like a noun, and then budget your money, which is like a verb, right? And it was just really unintuitive for folks, especially people who don't know the YNAB method. Because, if you like grab somebody off the street and say, hey, what does it mean to budget? They're going to say, oh, well, budgeting is listing your expenses and then projecting your income and, tracking your spending. And so we had this thing where we would have people come into the app and we say, okay, now it's time to budget your money. And so they just list their expenses, and they list their expenses by, by actually assigning money to categories. And then they would over budget inevitably every single time. And so they kind of hit this wall where their expectation of what budgeting means hit the YNAB method, which is a little bit different. And a lot of folks would hit that wall and just fall right out because it didn't make sense to them. So we looked at lots of different words to use instead of budgeted. Like we looked at allocate. That was probably the nerdiest one, I think, for us, because that's a very technical term. We said, well, why don't we allocate our dollars? Because that's what YNAB is. It's an allocation system. Right?
Yep, allocation system.
But it's a little stuffy,
Absolutely.
Maybe a little too nerdy. I don't know. And, it's a little bit technical. I'm not sure people really understand it. The biggest one that really, in our testing, got really close was distribute. We were
okay.
You remember that back? We've gone through so many designs for this update, y'all. But yeah, we had distribute back about, I think it was early 2020. That was gonna be it.
Boy,
right?
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, that was the big thing. We also tried out a few other options, but distribute was really big. But in the end, we did tons of testing with new people that never used YNAB before, and assign made sense to people. And it kind of makes sense too with give every dollar a job. You know, you're assigning a job.
I like it.
Right?
Yep.
So
I just need to get used to saying it in workshops.
yeah, that's the big thing. Other changes, goals, now called targets, which I really like actually because I think
Now we can actually have financial goals,
Right.
And we can use targets to achieve those financial goals.
exactly, yeah. We were kind of again we were overusing that word because you have financial goals and you have goals, but we'd always have to like clarify. We'd be like, goals, which is a feature in the app, not a not a financial goal. Don't think about that. Another thing I think is helpful with switching from goals to targets is it kind of takes some of the guilt out of it if you don't meet the goal. You know what I mean? Because like if you say, "Oh, I have a goal
Sure.
set to budget a certain amount or assign a certain amount of money to a category," right? And you don't hit that, you're like, "Oh, I didn't reach my goal," right? But if you say it's a target, it's just something you're shooting for. And it's a little lighter, right? It's like you might not hit the target exactly, but that's okay. It's maybe you'll maybe do better next time. So I just think it's a little bit easier, a little lighter, and also it just frees up the whole financial goal as opposed to a goal being a feature in the app. So I think it's really helpful.
Right. So now you can have the goals, planning for a wedding, saving for a down payment, new set of golf clubs, right? And then use those targets to achieve the goals.
Yeah. The other big change, which is less known to current YNABers, we changed the default category groups in the app. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I really, really liked this change.
This was
so
really
instead
good.
of immediate obligations, true expenses, what were some of the other ones? Quality of life goals.
Yeah, we did keep quality of life, but we had
But it just says quality
just
of
for
life
fun.
now.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing.
Just for fun.
We changed it up. I think we were using some language that needed to be defined, like.
Well, especially immediate obligations and true expenses.
Totally.
There was always that question, what's the difference between those? And so now immediate obligations has been replaced with bills. Because that makes sense, right? It's my monthly bills.
Yeah, and then we also have frequent, which is just like everyday expenses, like groceries and eating out, stuff that you use frequently, right? That isn't a bill, but it's still a monthly regular expense, right? So we kind of separated out immediate obligations almost into two things. Not perfectly; it's a little bit more complex than that. But instead of saying immediate obligations, and then people are like, "Well, what does that mean?" Now it's very clear. We're talking about your bills and your frequent expenses, so it's really clear.
Yep.
And
then the change from true expenses to non-monthly, I think that was
chef's kiss,
the best one.
Best thing ever.
Perfect, right?
Well, it's funny. I mean, we're still going to use Rule 2 is still called embrace your true expenses, right? Because we love that. I love that term. We love it. We made it up here at YNAB, and it does need to be taught what it means. But I think what I like about true expenses is it just encapsulates all this baggage from maybe before you've used YNAB where you don't think about these non-monthly expenses. And so what we're saying is actually this is your true expenses. It brings in this understanding that hey, you need to admit that this is a part of your financial life, these non-monthly expenses, and it kind of puts it all into one little package. So true expenses is still a thing, but when you open up the app for the first time, instead of calling them true expenses, we just call them non-monthly. And people just get it immediately.
Yep. So I'm not using those new groups. I have my categories arranged and my budget organized a different way now. But had I started YNAB, those would have been fantastic. It just would have made sense right there.
Yeah.
And I love teaching with those new groups because, again, it makes sense. It's intuitive. I think new YNABers are picking up on what those are supposed to look like right away.
You're not constantly, you're not constantly having to answer the question, what's the difference between these two things? People just get it right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, I haven't had to answer it once in the workshop since. So you said you're using those new groups in your own budget?
As of yesterday, I had a little fun. I got into my budget and I switched it up to have bills, frequent expenses, non-monthly expenses, goals, which is just financial goals, and quality of life. stuff. So I have those category groups, and then I have a few others that are specific to my situation. And
it seems to me, Ben, you've been tweaking your budget quite a bit lately. I feel like you're just on the cusp of a fresh start.
Oh my gosh. you read my mind, Ernie. You're absolutely right. I've been thinking about
You're
it.
this close.
I've been thinking about it. Yeah, there's like changes happening in my life, and I'm just kind of like, I'm feeling like this budget is, it's feeling like I'm kind of having to heave it around a little bit right now. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like maybe a fresh start would just make things a little lighter and a little fresher. So, that's
well,
what
here's what we
fresher,
should
a little
do.
fresher. Here you go.
When that moment comes and you make that fresh start, we're going to dedicate an entire budget nerds to fresh starts.
That's a
right?
good idea.
Because I do one yearly. You just did yours, and that's going to be a monumental moment. And
well, now that you've
then
said
make
it,
a
now
whole
that you've
episode out of
spoken
it.
this into existence, I'm gonna have to do it. but it's hard.
No pressure.
It's hard to like make that step. I don't know why. It just but I've done it before. I have I think 3 or 4 budget files over the years I've used. So yeah, I think it's starting to feel like time.
Okay.
So
well, we'll see. No pressure.
Yeah. We'll see.
Let's move on to the next feature, the learning-driven design.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about that for a little bit. How about you kick us off here?
Yeah, this is kind of a principle that has developed on our product team, and I just love it. That the design of the software should teach the method, because for so long we have, the software's always been based on the method, but it hasn't done a great job teaching people right in their first session, right? And we all know YNAB has a learning curve. That's the phrase. That's always the caveat. Oh, YNAB, it's so
How
great.
did Hannah put it?
How did you say it?
Hannah outlined it perfectly.
Oh, yeah, just like,
take these 3 workshops.
You call your friend, oh, you got to try this app. It's so great. Just take these 3 workshops, read this book, read these 15 blogs. And then she was like, hey, if you have any questions, just text me. Right?
Just text me. Yeah. It is so true, though. And it was actually something that held me back from, really pushing YNAB on my friends and family, because I was just always super sensitive to that amount of time, knowing, hey, these folks have lives, right? Do they really want to invest all this free time into a budgeting app? I'm not quite sure. And so I was really scared to kind of even bring it up.
Yeah.
But now I'm excited to start sharing YNAB a lot more.
I mean, if people will go to the workshops and read the blogs and do all that stuff, they will learn YNAB and they'll get excited about it. Like, it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Right? But, we're after helping everybody. And there's some people who just they're never going to step into a workshop. It's just not going to happen. Right. So we wanted to find ways that we could actually teach it right when they first start. And again, so they don't hit that wall where they run into the YNAB method and it doesn't meet their expectations, and then they just fall out. Instead, I love the way Alan described it. He's one of our designers. He wrote this whole thing about this, and he talked about how the idea is, like, instead of them hitting a wall and like us not meeting their expectation of what it means to budget, we still want to redefine what budgeting means to them and how handling your finances means to them. But we do it much more gradually now in the way that our onboarding works. And so instead of like hitting a wall, we like grab them, we take their energy and we kind of redirect it around this wall and like and teach them along the way. And it's just this much more peaceful, gradual way. So like the way we work it now in the onboarding, which means when you first open the app, especially on mobile for the very first time, instead of, before we had people add their accounts, be the very first thing that you do. Then set up your categories and then budget your money. Now we have people do what you expect when you first start a budgeting app, which is list your expenses first. So we have people set up their categories, we have people set up their targets, get it all nice and neat, and then we have them add accounts. And then we encourage them to assign the money that they have to that plan that they already made. And so it really scratches that itch where they can plan ahead, they can make a plan for a whole typical month. But then then when you add accounts, you connect it to reality, and you actually have to do that. And we're finding, we've been testing this so much, and people are just getting it. People are getting the idea of only budgeting money you have much, much more. So that's the key.
Yeah, and I'm excited to test this with my family and friends and see how it goes. So
Yeah.
hopefully stories to come from me.
Yeah, if you have friends who have tried YNAB in the past and didn't work, or who've never tried it, now is the best time ever. We're much more ready to teach folks that are less likely to show up in a workshop or read a blog or read the book or anything like that. And so
Yep.
it should be really good. I'm really excited about it. And like I said, the testing has just been the biggest thing. Is people are getting that you should only assign the money that you have right now rather than forecasting. They're getting that right in their very first time using YNAB. And if you can understand rule 1 and get that concept, the rest is like, it's going to be a lot easier to teach. and so that's what we're finding. It's really exciting. The other thing that's really new that we should talk about is auto assign. And this is also really closely aligned with the learning driven design part of things. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Aaron?
Yeah, auto assign. So this is primarily on the mobile, right? You can do it on both web and mobile, but the actual just auto assign button is prominent on the mobile app. Mm-hmm. And so once YNABers have their accounts in, add those starting balances, then those dollars, that money is available. It's ready to assign. And hitting that auto assign is going to assign those dollars automatically to the categories based on the targets. And the prioritization there is based on the dates of those targets. And so right away, YNABers can see, here are my dollars that I have ready to assign, and this is how they can be assigned in the budget all the way down to 0, right? So it's only taking their money and assigning those dollars.
Yeah, and what it does
so again,
is
just
it demonstrates the concept of only budgeting money you have, right?
Yes.
That's the key there too, because before we say, okay, give these dollars a job, and so, but people didn't really make a connection between the money in their accounts and the budget. When imagine if you've never used YNAB before, that's actually kind of a tricky concept. So, but AutoAssign demonstrates, hey, we're only going to get so far. If you don't have enough money to completely fund the entire month, it'll only fund until you hit $0 ready to assign, and then it's going to stop. And you get a preview so you can see, exactly what it did. You can make changes, but the biggest thing is it demonstrates only budgeting money you have. And it's nice for current users, especially if they have the newer targets set up, because it makes things a lot faster and a little easier. So it's pretty good.
Have you been using AutoAssign, Ben?
Yeah, it's not as like magic useful to me because I'm a month ahead, right? So I don't have to make the same kind of prioritization decisions that AutoAssign really excels at, because I'm a month ahead, so I can just budget for the whole month at once. But I am a person who I don't put my money in a holding category and wait till the month begins. I just go ahead and assign it into the next month right when I get paid. And so It's nice, because before I would have to select certain categories and make sure that I had enough to fund it, and then I hit that underfunded button and it would fund those. Now I can just hit auto assign or hit underfunded, and it just puts it in a place that makes sense as far as the prioritization process goes. And I know by the time the new month begins, I'm going to have enough money to fully fund everything. And so it's basically taken a 5-minute process and made it like a 10-second process for me.
Okay.
It's a little faster.
Which, as a budget nerd, could actually be a letdown.
Well, actually, we've heard this from folks, and it's true. I think I've gotten a little bit, because I trust my budget so much and I get it so much. I totally am fine with just using the auto assign and just doing it. But it is a little bit of a letdown, because sometimes you want to savor that budgeting time, right?
That's it. I'm done.
Right.
I gotta wait 2 more weeks now.
Yeah, and so I've heard from a lot of folks, they're like, I don't think I'm going to use auto assign. I'm a month ahead, and I just want to I want to go and I want to type in the numbers, because I want to make it last a little longer. And I'm like, that's great. You go for it. I think it's really fun.
We get it.
Yeah. So sometimes you don't want it to be too quick. You want to add a little bit of extra work just because you like it, So.
Well, I don't use I don't need to use auto assign, but I like to. because like you, I'm the month ahead. I use a holding category, so I just release it all at once. But I do like to hit the auto assign button and then just go through that preview pane and just look at what every category is getting, kind of savor that a little bit.
Yeah.
And make any changes because, no 2 months are the same.
That's true.
What I did last month, I don't necessarily want to do in the current month, or next month.
And we have all sorts of plans to make that preview mode make it even more easy to change it. So I think it'll be pretty fun to play with, especially when we make some more changes we have planned. So pretty exciting.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the fourth update, the fresh look. Of course, with all these changes, the app is going to get a new fresh look. So what do you think about the fresh look?
I like it. I love it. It's lighter.
Yeah, me too.
It's at first it was tough. It's like, oh man, like it's just a change, so it's a little tough to. I feel like, oh, am I really in YNAB, or is this something different? But it's not that different. Like it's pretty, the layout's pretty much the same. It's mostly the colors, and I just think it's beautiful. Like honestly, it's just fresh.
It pops,
and it's just. I don't know. I think it's just overall a little lighter. It almost reflects our culture as a community. Like we're kind of light. We're kind of moving, and the colors are a little lighter. And I think it's nice. So I appreciate it.
And I like not having the assigned amounts.
Oh yeah.
Showing.
Yeah.
We're just looking at available dollars. Again, I'm that really weird budget nerd that just likes to open the app, kind of scroll through my categories, look what I have available for fun. And so the fresh look has made that experience even more enjoyable.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is you're talking about when you have progress bars on mobile, that whole column of your assigned amounts, formerly budgeted amounts, now assigned amounts. You don't see it at all, which at first I thought that was going to bother me, but it doesn't at all, because first it's really accessible. You can just tap on any category and you see them all. But if you think about it, at least in my workflow, I really only need to see those amounts when I'm actually assigning money. Otherwise,
that's what I realized as well.
Yeah, so it's just kind of getting in the way. And so again, it makes it fresher, makes it a little more open and light. So I like that. But you can still have it, if you turn progress bars off, you can still see that all the time if you want to. So totally up to you. Yeah,
once progress bars hit, I've never turned them off.
Yeah,
I just like looking at them that much. So
you really are an acceptor of change, aren't you? You're like, oh yeah, I just loved it. I struggled with progress bars at first because again, I'm a month ahead, so I think they're a little bit less informative to me, at least as far as how far along I've gotten in assigning the money. Because when the month begins, all my money is assigned to all the categories, right? So I don't need to see the progress on that, but the progress on the spending has actually been really helpful.
Yes, I just realized that yesterday.
Yeah, you can kind of get like a little bit of a pace, because before I do this all the time with some categories, like especially real discretionary things like dining out. I would always, I do this all the time. I look at the available amount. I'm thinking about going out to eat this weekend, and I'll pull up a calendar and I'll see how many more weekends there are left in the month.
Yep.
And then I'll divide and see, okay, well, we got $30 per weekend to eat out, something like that. And sometimes I'll still do that, but the progress bars let me do that at a glance, because I can say, okay, well, we're halfway through the month and my progress bar is halfway complete on the spending. And so I know I'm kind of on track. It kind of gives you kind of a pacing model there, which I think I really like. But yeah, like I said, I struggled with it at first. I was like, I don't know. I think it just it adds a lot of space. There's more scrolling, because they're thicker,
yep.
And I thought that was going to bother me at first, and I even turned them off and turned back on again. But now I just really love it, because again, I actually like the added space. Like it's just a little bit less text on the screen all at once, and it's just a little more breathing room. I feel like I can process the information a little better. Ironically, I think it makes it go faster, because I can find categories a little faster because there's just a little more space between them, and it's kind of nice.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, the spent amounts in those categories has been eye-opening, because, once you fund a category, then you're seeing what you've spent in that. And it's been eye-opening for those non-monthlies because, you know, like clockwork, I'm just putting dollars into those categories every single month. And then I just kind of lose track or I should say I don't really even think about my spending because I have, in some of those categories, a good amount of money. So a little here, a little there, I don't even think about it. And as I was scrolling through looking at my spent amounts, I was struck by how much I've spent from my personal spending category this month. It was like $180. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Right.
That's a lot of money to spend for me from my spending category. So then I started looking at all my other spending amounts for some of those non-monthlies. And I just found it really interesting.
Yeah. It just gives you kind of quickly at a glance how you're doing without having to do a bunch of math in your head, you know, which is, that's the goal here. We want to get the information without having to do a bunch of work ourselves.
Well, and it changed my behavior.
Nice.
Because I'm like, okay, not only do I have this much left in my personal spending, but I've spent a lot. And I made a big ticket purchase and, you know, totally okay with that. I loved that. But now I'm like, okay, let's just try to rein it in for these last couple weeks of July. And so it has like, okay, maybe I'm not going to pick up that coffee or that cold brew or go out to eat for lunch or something like that. So it has stopped me from doing some of those things because I don't want to see that spend number continue to increase.
Yeah, and not just the visual, but there's actual, you know, numbers there where you know, it says like, hey, you funded this amount, you need this much more to finish funding it, or you spent this amount of this amount, you know, that kind of a thing. And just having that there, because before I think you'd have to really click into the category and look at the inspector to really get that information, look at the details on the category, but now it's right in front of you, so it's a little bit faster. So
let's move on and talk about edit mode. So edit mode in the mobile app is just a really easy way to customize your categories and adjust those targets, not only the target amounts, but the target type and frequency. And this is really slick, you know, because, you know, budget nerds, we're often thinking about those targets and, you know, how do they line up with the real world, what's actually going on? And we do make those occasional adjustments. And so now we can just, instead of going category by category, we just bring it all up at once, casually scroll through things, take a look, make any changes if needed, and you're done.
Yeah, you know, what's funny is if I was going to make changes to my formerly goals, I would always do it on the web app, you know, like it was just way easier. Like on mobile, there were several taps to get into the actual goals feature. Now, with the edit mode, if I was going to make changes to my goals, I might do it on mobile because you have it all lined up in front of you, all the targets at once, and yeah, it's nice. I've been thinking about here's another evidence for the fresh start here, because after we did our goals video a while back, we broke down all our goals. I've been thinking about, you know, changing up my targets.
Me too.
Because I think I'd like to use more of the newer target types that we have, because we talked a lot about how like, oh, well, we're, you know, curmudgeon-y and we use these old target types, you know. But now that we have auto assign, it might be actually nice to set up the targets a little bit more so they work a little better with the predictive way of budgeting that auto assign has, you know?
Yep.
So I was thinking about doing that, that got me thinking, and I was like, well, I think I'm going to use the mobile app to do that because it'd be actually faster there. So, yeah.
I'm actually counting down the days to the end of the month, so that I can go through my usual end of the month budgeting routine. But then I want to change some of those targets because that goals/target episode we did, I've been thinking about your dog food example ever since.
Oh yeah.
Where there's this, your dog is growing, right? So you don't need the full amount of dog food right now, but your target is for that full amount. And so you just set it that you spend what you need because you set aside that full amount.
Yeah.
You spend what you need. You had money left over. And then that leftover money contributed to the amount that you needed to assign next month.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I love that because it's always getting you to that high mark, but you're not spending that high mark.
Yeah. And it's funny, just the other day on that category, I had actually overfunded it because I assigned money there before the new month begins, right? Getting kind of in the weeds here, but I had overfunded it, and so it was kind of nice. I had some overspending, and I was like looking for some categories I could move it from, and I was like, oh, well, this category has too much in it now. I can just move some money from there, you know. So it was actually it's actually kind of a nice thing. It's like actually a little extra money, but I do need to button down on it probably because I got to start thinking of. I gotta my dog's growing fast. I've gotta start thinking about it. She's gonna cost $100 a month to feed her pretty soon. So that's what my target is right now. So there you go.
Yikes.
She's a Great Dane. I don't know if you guys know, but yeah, that's Bessie. Anyway, yeah, so you were interested. There's all sorts of tricks you can do. So you're interested in trying it out in a few places.
Changing those up, because what I found when you use that monthly savings builder and you take a yearly or a non-monthly expense and you divide it out equally into months, sometimes there's amounts that just don't divide equally.
Right.
So at the end of an expense, I would have a little bit of money left over. And that just always annoyed me. Like, I pay for my vehicle registration, there's like $1.30 left over or something. And I would always have that amount at the, when I paid that registration. But now, once I change up my targets, I'm going to use that needed for spending. Anything left over is going to go towards that next target, right? That next year's target. And so I'm not going to have these excess funds in my budget anymore. And that's the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night.
You're like lying in bed. You're like, I need to change my targets. They're not perfect.
They're not perfect, yes.
They'll never be perfect, though. But we're always going to be changing it for the rest of our lives, and that's fun. I mean, you don't want it to be perfect because then you wouldn't have anything to change or think about on your budget, so that would not be fun.
Absolutely. So, it'd be set it and forget it practically, and I don't want that.
None of that. The last thing we wanted to talk about today, which is actually not part of the new update, this came around a couple months ago, but because this update's so focused on mobile, a lot of people are finding it for the first time now. On iOS only right now, Android, we're going to get you. We're working on it.
Coming soon.
You can now reconcile right there in the mobile app, which is a very often requested feature. And now we got it on iOS. So have you been using that, Ernie?
I use it every so often just so I can get that confetti thrown up in the air.
We also added that. We got a little confetti.
Dance.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it just...
Yeah, but my workflow is primarily through the web app, right? So, what I do is I hit the reconcile button in the web app, and then I have my bank balance on my mobile app on my phone.
Oh,
right?
So you're doing...
that's what I do.
I see. Okay, so you're still using mobile for reconciling. Would you ever want to just switch over to it on your phone, or what's keeping you from that?
I'm using my bank's mobile app.
Right.
And I don't know. Maybe I could move the routine to mobile completely, but I don't like flipping through the various mobile apps.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
I don't know. I just like all the real estate that I have with the web app.
It's kind of like expanding your screen a little bit by having a different device, right there in front of you. Yeah, absolutely. When I reconcile, I have a super wide monitor, so I have my bank on one side and YNAB on the other. That's how I do it. I have tried to use a mobile. This is going to be a little bit of a sad trombone for me, but I wanted to do it all on mobile, including looking at my bank app. But I realized on mobile, my bank's app doesn't show the cleared balance. So unless I do a bunch of math, I can't reconcile fully on mobile right now. And so it's a little bit of a bummer because I wanted to try it. Like it shows the balance including pending transactions, but it doesn't show the clear balance. It does on the computer, but not on my phone. So a little bit of a bummer. I can't really reconcile purely on mobile. But I have done what you did. I pulled up, actually the opposite of what you did. I pulled up the bank on my computer and reconciled on my phone just so I could try it out. And yeah, it's pretty fun. Pretty cool.
Now, when that confetti goes off, do you actually do a reconciliation dance?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like a little bit of...
Do you?
Oh, yeah. You got to do the reconciliation dance. Like you do one of these, little Charlie Brown. I don't know.
I love
What's
it.
your reconciliation dance, Ernie? You got one? Love it.
I'm more of like, clubbing.
Okay, yeah, a little more expressive. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Boy, that was pathetic.
Yeah, well, you know, we are nerds, so don't judge us by our dancing skills. But there you go. All right, well, tell us about your reconciliation dance. Tell us what you think of the changes. What are you using? What are you learning? We'd love to hear more about it. Anything else you want to say, Ernie?
No, I think we covered it all. Looking forward to hearing from the community.
Awesome. Well, thanks, y'all. We'll see you in the next one. Happy budgeting.
Happy budgeting.
Bye, y'all.